What do you think of this recipe for happiness? Take physical exercise with all its amazing benefits, add yoga and meditation to the mix, and then cover it all with a generous measure of dance and music. Sounds almost too good to be true, right? Well, it's not. The revolutionary approach of Let Your Yoga Dance creates the very recipe that can positively transform your life. And today, we're going to learn how to bring this recipe to your life so that you can enjoy and spread an abundance of joy and happiness. She's a world-leading teacher in yoga and meditation who has taught thousands of students and hundreds of yoga teachers through Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. She's a dancer, an actress, a singer, an expert in positive psychology, and the author of the groundbreaking book, Expanding Joy. The founding director of Let Your Yoga Dance, she spreads joy and happiness throughout the world. I'm delighted to welcome my dear friend and teacher, Megha Nancy Buttenheim. Megha, I'm overjoyed to see you here.
Oh, Tal, I'm thrilled that you could be here and that I could be on your Happier TV. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So, it sounds like a lot of things. You bring yoga and meditation, and you bring dance and music. How does it all work together?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, Let Your Yoga Dance is really a yoga, gentle dancing experience that embodies the chakras, which are the energy centers of the body. And so in either an hour, even a little shorter sometimes, or a longer period of time, I've figured out a way with beautiful music that can really tickle people's hearts and bodies and minds and spirit into a flow that, for me, it's a little bit like the arc of a rainbow. And so, we really begin slowly in a meditative place where people might think they're actually in a yoga class. But then the music starts, and usually it might be a pulsing, drumming thing. And we focus on the earth, which is the first chakra. And then we move our way up through all these centers of energy which touch water and power, right in what we call the third chakra, and the heart, what's called the Anahat chakra. So we begin to open up into the heart space, which then begins to shift a little from the yoga world, where oftentimes in yoga we're looking at people's backs, other people's students, but I'm very interested in people looking at one another. It's said that looking into the eyes is looking into the window of the soul.
So unlike yoga, which could be a very intrapersonal experience, here we're looking outwards to others.
Yes, some of the time, not all of the time. And that's where Let Your Yoga Dance. We do a lot with yoga, but it's moving and it's gentle and it's easy. So I'm interested in everybody knowing that they're dancers, not just, the 20, something kick butt people, but everybody is a dancer. And then we move right on to perhaps music that is chanting, or it might be from musicals from Broadway or Bollywood or whatever. And then as it goes up through these other centers, it slowly starts to come back to moving meditation and to yoga again and stillness.
I've been through many of your classes and participated in your training, and I know that I can go into a practice, into a session feeling, somewhat, tired, fatigued, unhappy, and emerge very differently. Yeah. And I remember the first time I went through it, I thought back to something that I read by Maslow. Maslow talks about a peak experience. Right. Maslow, I consider him the grandfather of positive psychology, talks about a peak experience, our highest, best moments. And he says two of the places where people tend to experience these moments, these best moments in life, are dance and music. Now, that's right. As I said earlier, you take this, and into the recipe you also add the power of mindfulness and the power of yoga. There's a lot of research on that. And we really have a very powerful, unique intervention. What have you found that it does to people? So, I talk about, being a transformative experience. What have you found that it does to your students, to you?
Well, and as you were speaking, I've had the exact same experience as a teacher. I might be in deep grief. My life goes on. Just because we love and know positive psychology doesn't mean that we don't have a life. So there's going to be sorrow and anger and rage. And sometimes I go into one of my thousands of programs and I go, I am really having a very hard time. But I've done this enough to go, I know in a very short period of time, I'm going to be transformed. Why? Again, these chakras, these energy centers pack a punch because it's a recipe, it's a really good roadmap for consciousness. And coupled with music, and I'm really playing DJ here, what is a piece of music that could really, for example, if you're feeling angry, I might put on really loud drumming so that then you can move across the floor and let yourself express that feeling rather than what we so often do in our culture, is to squash it down. And then people, the introverts, tend to get a little timid, but all they have to do is get in there. And then they have permission. They have permission to be human. They have permission to be magnificent. They also have permission to be. And whichever way they are, open your eyes, look at another, and then I'll put on a song that might be a love song. But we have to look at each other, which can be a little, timid producing. But if you just go a little bit beyond that comfort zone issue, all of a sudden, oh my heavens, this being is really important to me. And we're all important, and suddenly we're a family in that little tiny hour. It kind of works every time.
It does work every time. Every time.
Take out the kind of.
Yeah, every time I've been through it, it really works. And what it does is, as you say, you describe a process where you start physically in the bottom, and then you go all the way up, and then back into yourself. Now, you just published this book called Expanding Joy, which I'm very, very excited about. What did you try to do in this book? Because you brought some more components into Let Your Yoga Dance.
Well, and I have to say, Tal, that a year and a half ago, you wrote me an email and said, Megha, how is your book coming? This must get done. And I went, okay. So at that point, I had been on the team with the Whole Being Institute of really being the director of movement and meditation. And I have a practice that's very solid, but I wanted to also very clearly extrapolate the teachings, the teaching tenets of positive psychology. So in Expanding Joy, the true title is Expanding Joy, Let Your Yoga Dance, Embodying Positive Psychology. So after I explain all of what Let Your Yoga Dance is and our mission, which is to spread joy and consciousness throughout the world by transmitting body health, brain health, heart health, and soul health to all populations, not just super duper physically active populations, but everyone from in utero to deathbed. I also wanted to include positive psychology so that folks from that world could realize that, hey, this is for them as well.
As opposed to just folks who connect to chakras and
yes, that's
and
yogic
meditation.
knowledge. That's yogic knowledge, and that's all fine and wonderful and good. But there's a whole population, I feel, and Marty Seligman said it himself in his book Flourish, that a lot of the psychology world is neck up. So I said, I'm bringing it down. So I want the psychology world to know that the body is imperative. And because in what your work with the Whole Being Institute and bringing the SPIRE model, the SPIRE method, that wonderful anagram that stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional, into the mix, I thought, wow, this goes very well with the chakras. So I've taken the SPIRE, and that's all in the book as well, and how do we move through that? And I wanted to just also say that, some people might think that intellectual only means study and research and reading, which is great and important, but it's also, I think, it's an intellectual rigor and inquiry into really learning the secrets of our own body that nobody out there can teach us.
Right. Looking deep inside yourself and then also extrapolating to other people,
right.
Because we are deep down very similar. It's there's so much in this, and it's amazing that the yogis thought about all these movements and ideas thousands of years ago, and And that today we have the research to show why they work. So for example, we know today from research, fake it till you make it. You know, so I may be going into an experience really feeling down, but if I smile and express love, I'm already feeling a lot better as a result.
And that is absolutely true. And I know that this little game of just putting your finger here if you're feeling, sometimes I've done that again when I'm about to teach and I'm not feeling so great. And it makes me smile. You know, fake it till you make it really is true.
Yeah, it really does work. And the other element is also, you know, when you open up your body, that of course makes us feel stronger, more confident. Even research by Amy Cuddy that you often refer to talks about how we increase our testosterone levels, reduce our cortisol levels just by acting confident or happy or loving.
That's right, and in her book Presence, of course, you know, how do I present myself to the world? And, you know, I thought I was doing pretty well, but when that came along, when that study and that TED Talk seen by, 34 million people by now, which is good, can I give you a little anecdote? I was, I'm going to stand up again. I was in an improv group recently, and I hadn't done improv before, and we had to do a showcase. I was scared. So we all came out on the stage, and I thought, well, here's yoga. We all had to just stand there for a little while as the audience told us what to do. And I thought, all right, I'm going into yoga and I'm going into presence. And so I knew I couldn't be in the mountain. That would be cheating. But I could stand like this. And it does. It pulls my shoulder blades together more. And I was faking it. I felt better and better. And we did a good job.
That's right. You know, that's what Amy talks about as a power pose.
Yeah.
And the final thing with this simple exercise that I noticed was, you know, the idea of falling in love. So we have such high standards for falling. You know, it has to be the one who we meet, you know, once in a lifetime, if we're lucky. You know, maybe twice, or we reserve it for, you know, very you know, immediate family. You know, whether it's for, you know, parents or kids or siblings. But what Barbara Fredrickson, who's the famous positive psychology, talks about is how we can experience positivity resonance, which is the experience of love, even when we just look at someone on the street and smile. Positivity resonance. And it's the same physiological reaction to a stranger that we can experience towards one of our nears and dears. And we can experience that love throughout the day. And when we do, it very often creates an upward spiral of positive emotions that affects our life as a whole.
Exactly. That really is what happens. And I was just thinking about Barbara Fredrickson as well, because I do feel that in the Let Your Yoga Dance experience, that the resonance of love is so powerful, and also what she talks about with broadening and building positivity. I feel that that's what happens when we go into every single dance in the practice. It's a broadening, it's a building. So by the end, there's this, wow, you know, everything is aligned, and I am one with myself, I'm one with you, I'm one with all beings. So then that's yoga.
That's yoga, unity.
Unity, yeah.
Megha, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing joy to my life. Thank you for being here with us on Happier Talk. And just continue doing what you're doing. It's magic.
Thank you, Tal. I love you like a love song, baby.
And thank you for joining us on Happier Talk. For more interviews, reflections, ideas on how you can make your life and other people's lives happier, join us here on Happier TV.